Chapter 29. No One POV. Past Scene 8. After Xavier told them everything, starting from the encounter with the princess, they looked at him in shock. So, you mean to tell us that the devil is not actually destroyed, and the girl you fell in love with is a bride of the devil? Serene asked, as the young prince nodded his head. I know it's much to take in, but we can't waste any more time. We need to go something and save her. Xavier sat, panicking. It's been 3 days since the incident, and he knew he can't wait any longer. But you told the Lord came in person and prohibited you from going out of terrain. Wilfred said doubtfully. Yes, we need to find a way to break the order. Xavier said, determined, but his friends looked a little worried. But can we break a rule by our creator? Serene asked, as Xavier looked at Wilfred. Since they both are the next ruler heirs of the terrain, they're to learn things no one should know. There is a way, Xavier said, as Wilfred's eyes widened. Absolutely risky. Don't you remember what we learned about it? Unless you master and acquire enough power, you can't control it. Wilfred said, as Xavier sighed. I'm more than capable. I know I am. He tried to argue, but Wilfred was not having it. Absolutely not. It is too dangerous to even go to the chamber vault, let alone take the stone. Wilfred said, but Serene looked at them confused. Vault? Stone? What are you guys talking about? Serene asked, looking at the two boys. Chamber vault is something the most precious and important room in the terrain. It contains what is called the Power Stone, the one which is the reason for the balance of a terrain. Every terrain has one, but it is unknown to the common people in order to give complete protection. Xavier said, as her eyes widened. Even the gods guarding the room don't know what it is. Heavily protected by spell and charms, impossible to get in. Wilfred continued. Except for the royalty. Xavier smirked, as his best friend frowned. Only my parents and I can enter. Xavier told, determined. But it is still unsafe. By the time you enter the chamber vault, the king will be notified by the gods. Will said, still frowning. Yes, but with your help, I can use an invisibility spell. Once I reach there, I can get the stone. Once we save Diane, we will return it. Xavier said, as Wilfred looked at the prince, still conflicted. I still think it is a bad idea, Wilfred said, as Xavier let out a frustrated cry. Why? If you are afraid, you can back out, but I will do it, Xavier said, his hands forming to a fist. Wilfred's eyes widened at his friend's statement. Xavier has always been stubborn and wants things his way, but he always put his two best friends first. But now, he's determined, and he will do anything to get Diane back safe. All right, Wilfred said, as Xavier's head snapped to Wilfred's. All right, I will help you, Wilfred said, as Xavier smiled and nodded. Thank you. That night, when everyone was asleep, Xavier and Wilfred started their mission. Be careful, Wilfred said, as they stood on top of the palace roof. Xavier nodded and sneaked a peek at the guards at the vault chamber. Wilfred's eyes glowed bright red as he chanted his spell. He cast it on Xavier, making him invisible. Will you be able to concentrate? Xavier asked Wilfred, who nodded. Using an invisible spell can use a lot of energy. It was one of the reasons Xavier didn't use it. To take the power stone in his hand, he needs to be strong. He jumped from the roof to the side shade and made his way to the vault room. He was hesitant to walk past the guard, even though he was invisible, but he needs to do it. For Diane. He took a deep breath and stepped out of his hiding spot. His heart beating fast. He gave out a sigh of relief when they didn't move from their spot. The door to the vault was actually a magic wall. The wall where only a royal can walk through. Xavier looked at the wall with hesitancy. When he walks past the door, there's no turning back. The Lord will be furious, and anything can happen to him. But he had no choice. He walked through the magic wall and reached the other part of the wall. The palace was beautiful as always. He had only visited the place once, so the view still amazed him. The door looked nothing like a room, but like a beautiful forest. Trees around, green grass, waterfall, everything. It was a projection powered by the stone. The stone was the life source. It has the power to create life. Xavier walked towards the waterfall where the stone floats. He walked on the stepping stone and finally stopped in front of the stone. The stone was a simple pearl ball that has the mark of Lord Valmir. It shined as the water showered on top of it. He extended his trembling hands and touched the pearl. "I'm sorry," Xavier said, as he took a hold of the stone before pulling it out. Suddenly everything around him disappeared, the forest completely vanished, and the room was now just an ordinary castle room. The pearl in his hand glowed, and he felt a surging power run through his body. He put it in his pocket before transporting his location to the dark forest. He looked back to the castle and sighed. He could not include his friends in this. He knew what he was doing is wrong. He stole the balance of his terrain. He is going to defy the rule of his lord. He cannot drag his friends into this. He chanted a spell, and an old paper appeared in front of him. "I'm sorry, my friend. I'm going to the Devil's Planet alone. I do not wish to involve any process hurt you. I hope you will forgive me for this," it writes. The letter burns completely in his hand, and he knew he has only minutes until Wilfred read it and comes searching. He took out the pearl and closed his eyes. "I demand the power to overcome the mark of Valmir. Give me the strength to pass the terrain and reach the Devil's world. Serene." Xavier said, and almost immediately, he felt a burning pain in his chest. He coughed and fell on his knees as the body started to burn. He looked at the forbidden mark in his arm, and it was shining like fire. Suddenly, he let out a shout of pain as the mark vanished from his hand, before he was transferred to the Lane of Demons. Chapter 30. No One POV. Past Life 9. He let out a shout as he landed on the sand. He felt the sand beneath him give out heat. The sensation gave him an uneasy feeling. Especially his chest was still burning from the transportation. He slowly stood up and looked around. His eyes widened at the scene in front of him. He let out a chuckle as he understood why she was so into his world. The world she lived in was dark and nothing but red and black color contrast. The sand was red, so was the water. The trees were not green with leaves, but they were black sharp branches with no leaves. Xavier has gone to many deepest and darkest places during his adventurous hunt, but the things around him never made him shiver in fear. It's like this place screams him as an outsider. He suddenly heard a growl. Taking a fighting stance, he looked around. The place was silent, except for the growling sound. The winds around him picked up as he looked around in caution. Suddenly, he saw a shadow pass by among the woods. "Who's there?" he called out as he took his sword out. "What are you doing here?" A smooth and beautiful voice rose to make the prince freeze. "Come out, so I can see you," he said as he saw a figure between the woods. The girl giggled before stepping out into the light. Xavier's eyes widened as he saw the familiar face. "Diane!" he called out, shocked. She smiled and slightly slanted her head. "Come to me," she said, her voice soothing. Xavier smiled as he walked to her. "Diane, you're safe," he said as he stopped a few feet away from her. "I'm safe," she said, her voice slightly changing. Xavier crunched his eyebrow as he smelled a very odd yet enchanting smell coming from her. He felt attracted as he walked closer to her. "Come to me," she said, but this time her voice was more soothing than ever. Suddenly, the appearance of the woman changed. She turned green, and her eyes were formed to that of a serpent. "Come to me," she said again. He knew she was not dying. He knew she was a demon, but his body was speaking otherwise. He shivered as the demon's breath hits his neck. She is so close. It disgusts him, but he can't stop himself from his spell. "Sweet, sweet boy, you look so delicious today. I want to savor each part," she said as she reaches her arm out to him. "Savor each part," he said as he leaned closer. But the moment her fingers touched him, the demon screamed and moved back. "Ah!" she screamed, as if it bends before going behind a tree, and hissed at him. She screamed, as if it bends before going behind a tree, and hissed at him. "Ah! My hand!" It screeched and hissed at him. As Sevio's eyes widened as he saw the demon's hand. Her once the green hand was black and burned bad. He watched as the demon hissed once again before going into the scary woods. He let out a sigh before looking around. The place was dangerous, and he should be more careful. He took a deep breath before walking forward. An hour passed by, and the sand turned to solid ground. The scene before him was of a township. There were houses and shops. The street looked busy as they go on with their daily lives. He hid behind the trees to not be found. The demons were all of different types and shapes. Some had different skin colors, some had horns, and some even looked like normal human. At the far end was a huge palace. He knew that was the devil's lair. He ran in cover from tree to tree, trying to get close to the palace. He stole a coat from one of the shops and covered himself. He put on the hood of the coat and kept his head low as he walked into the crowd. "I can't believe the devil's getting married today," one of the demonesses said, perking up my interest. "I heard Princess Diane did something to anger the devil," another said as I walked closer to them. I leaned on the wall opposite them, wanting to hear the conversation. "I had to go to the palace to give my father the report he forgot at home and heard her scream and cried in pain," the first one, the taller among the two, said, making me tense. "You went there during her punishment?" the other asked, shocked. "Yes, but I wish I didn't. It was such a dreadful experience," she said as I formed my hand to a fist. "I don't get why she can't just accept her fate and marry the devil. I mean, I wouldn't refuse the offer of being his wife," the shorter one said. He took a huge breath to control his powers. He felt his powers rise in himself due to anger. He needs to find Diane and save her at all costs.